Welcome, Moon and Star. It is I, Dagoth-Ur. This is a tale of the Cuckshak episode that never made past the cultists of the Sixth House. It was conjured 5 years ago and swiftly locked away in the depths of the Heart Chamber. The filthy Argonian bard hosting this podcast in the Black Marsh was paid 6 months of free advertising space with the Dark Brotherhood as compensation to placate his wasted time and to keep his mongrel dog mouth shut, or else incur the wrath of the false gods. The original episode was about just shy of an hour and had insufferable pacing, containing a lot of stalling, bumbling, umming, and uh-hing. I'll cast an alteration spell for your convenience. Episode 6 was originally meant to air before the dirty Khajiit Zaush, who, like other Enwas, was permanently banned from Fur Affinity today, despite being completely inactive on the platform for the past 4 years. Any artist with a decent following who has ever broken bread with Zaush in the past decade must pay for their faithlessness, and must also be sacrificed before the feet of the altar, so that they may never hand over the ancient land to the mongrel dogs of the Empire. Any pursuit that is not one of worship is an act of treason, and thus guilty by association. No TOS violation or explanation necessary at this tribunal, as all mortals must conform to a spell of silence in order to reach enlightenment. With this melancholy fate in mind, who could this controversial mystery guest be, and why would they be willing to so far as to cut their own tongue? Faction leader of the Imperial Legion Dragoneer? What a world! A pity we cannot trust one another as allies, as I have sympathy for you. I, Dagoth-Ur, can relate to the god complex of washing your hands of unwanted Enwas. But you lack vision. What a fool you are to hide your past transgressions and tearing out pages of history. All right, come Nerevar and let's get this shit show going. You have been warned.
Alright, so this is about what? Cuckshak episode number 6? Yeah, this one we have Dragoneer.
Hold on, let me...
do you want to give people that have absolutely no idea who you are, the kind of like short and skinny, as to like your kind of position in the fairy community?
Oh, hell no, let them figure out. It'll be a mystery.
Making it difficult for me. Yeah, so Dragoneer is, from my knowledge at least, he is the founder of FA, or one of the founders,
No.
chipping away at it. No, wait. Yeah, someone owned it before you, and then you inherited it, and then you're the current like admin lead guy or something? Is that how it works? Or
Yeah, so For Affinity was founded by Elcor. I was kind of part of the original staff that came on, and then I later bought it out in 2007.
And you've been the head honcho since, or?
Yeah, well, I was technically head since about 2000, early 2006, I guess. It's been so long.
What was the like furry climate like back then? Like, what was the scene? Like, I'm fairly new-ish, I guess. Like, I've only been around for like 5 years now. What was it like in 2007 or even prior?
Trying to think, like, so you had websites like VCL, and you had a lot of furry news groups. VCL was one of the biggest websites at the time, but it really didn't offer much interaction. News groups were really popular with that, but there was really just no good way for fans and artists to like get together, connect, talk. So Fur Affinity was one of those things that really gave a central hub to all of that.
And I assume that even before you stepped up to be an admin, you're kind of like a fan of what FA was back in the time as well and all that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to think about it at the time. Like, when I first heard about Fur Affinity, I'm like, DeviantArt for furries? Oh, that'll never work. I was so wrong.
Back in that time frame, was it really popular or anything? Like, how many people were, on the usual day, like, how much art was flowing into the website and stuff, do you recall, or?
Oh, I that's been so long, I have no idea what those stats would be anymore. The website pretty much just, it grew so fast, we had trouble keeping up. Every time we got to a point where, like, okay, the hardware's good, everything else is good. It's like, no, we've outgrown it. It's just been like a race to keep up.
What would you say has been the biggest hurdles since you became an admin in terms of like just managing the website, community, that kind of stuff?
Mostly code.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one I can't really get into just for reasons.
Yeah, you don't need to go in and just talk about like just the generals. Anything like in particular you have had to deal with or anything like that?
I think sometimes just a matter of communicating like admin intent to users to get them to understand that, we're not trying to, ruin their day. We're just, the communication between, site rules and how users interpret them can be kind of difficult at times. But
what would you say has been the biggest improvement with the website that you're the most proud of, or at least with the team and stuff like that? What do you think has like been the biggest push?
Just being able to handle the growth in general. That's been one of the hardest hurdles over time is trying to keep up the volume, just where you can have up to 30,000 people online at once without the servers, falling in with collapsing upon themselves.
What does that kind of service situation look like? You obviously can't give specifics, but do you pay for like a service or something somewhere, or is it like a bunch of
We have
like?
a rack, and it's got multiple database servers, content servers, which host like the thumbnails and the pictures, some application servers, which run particular tasks like forums or internal advertising.
Do you have to run stuff to stop bot stuff spamming the website and all that too, or is that just handled
Oh
via
yeah,
code?
we don't really do a service per se, but we maintain a list of who's been naughty and nice, who's running scripts that can impact performance or have an issue.
How would you say you initially came into the fairy community, like in the first place? Like, what was the appeal? Do you feel?
It actually came about as a joke. So I used to play a lot of Werewolf the Apocalypse, and we were going through all the art books and all the rules books, and we just couldn't help but notice, like every time a female werewolf transformed, we're like, I'm not trying to sound perverted or anything, but where did their breasts go? So I was just kind of Googling, well, not Googling because Google didn't exist back then.
Google
I
didn't
feel old.
exist?
No, I feel old now. The great Yahoo, which was the search engine at the time. Um, yeah, I happened to search werewolf boobies as a joke, going, I wonder what I can find. And I found exactly what I was searching for. And I kind of went, I don't hate this.
I noticed that your Sona's got like some Digimon inspired themes going on there. So I'm assuming that at the time, like you're a big fan of Digimon, or
Yeah, so I originally started out as a hyena character named Preyfire. And just somewhere over time, I started seeing a whole bunch of Digimon pictures, and I just kind of fell in love with the whole concept of them. Can't really explain why. Just I love I guess it's kind of a transformation thing at some point because of the way they digivolve. But I just like the ability to kind of, I don't know. I don't really have a good answer for that.
do you like the open endedness where it could just kind of be anything you want because like it kind of fits into the whole character concept that it can kind of change and morph a bit?
Yeah, there's just like I love Pokemon, but Digimon are sort of more of a militant Pokemon. So I kind of like the concept of that.
It's like Pokemon appealed to like the 9-10-year-old bracket, and then Digimon was the edgy 11 to 12-year-old bracket. You know, they're so much cooler. Different
Edgelords before
demographic.
ages.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, like back when I was a kid, I actually thought Renamon was a boy, and I always picked them in the games, and then it would digivolve into a girl. I'm like, what the hell? This makes no sense.
Well, technically, this is me being stupid. Well, not stupid, but showing my geeky side. Digimon don't really have genders or sexes. It's just they're basically whatever you want them to be. Like as far as I know, Renamon's a girl in a lot of translations, but in Germany she's a guy apparently.
Ah.
Like I've heard a lot of different. They just kind of find whoever fits the character and go with it.
Digimon getting any games anymore? Or is it kind of dead?
No, they just came out with a whole new series called Hacker's Memory and Cyber Sleuth.
Is that like
And they
fit
have
in the Digimon kind of world, or is it just its own spin-off?
no, yeah, they're well, saying Digimon World or Digital World kind of has a weird. Let me start over. Sorry, I'm not the best at speaking,
Hey,
so you might have to edit out a bit.
a lot of people aren't, so like it's appealing. It's like, oh wow, the person that runs this website that I go to every day is just like me. Oh boy, whoa, maybe I'm not that different after all, you know?
Yeah, so like when it comes to Digimon, there's no technical set world. Every season kind of rewrites what Digimon is or isn't. And it kind of follows a multiverse concept where the digital world's the only consistent one, and every human world is sort of an alternate reality of sorts. So it's kind of hard to ever define what Digimon is or isn't because every year it changes just slightly.
So long as it's slightly digi and it's slightly monster, you're kind of in the right realm.
Yeah, so if you've seen the Matrix movies, it's kind of like that, where each real world is like another server instance in the Matrix. So they all share like the same central hub, which is the digital world, but each one is slightly different.
It's pretty cool. In regards to more furry stuff, let's say conventions. I think me and Kate bumped into you guys very, very briefly, just one single time for like 5 seconds. I think we saw you guys like getting on an elevator once. That was about it. Do you guys go to a lot of conventions or anything, or what?
I used to. I've been just kind of busy in the past few years, but I used to always try to hit up Furry Weekend Atlanta and Midwest Fur Fest. I used to love those.
Yeah, I think FWA's Kate's favorite con. I haven't been to yet. We'll be going this year. Apparently, like it's just got a good atmosphere. It's very party going and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Plus, Atlanta is just it's. I don't want to say it's a fun city because oh, that sounds bad.
But it's a
Um,
fun city, I guess. Yeah, fuck it.
yeah, no, it's got a good atmosphere to it, minus the heat.
Have you had any like con experience, like or just con in general, that was just really bad? Like it wasn't fun, and you don't really want to go again?
Oh, I've had more than a few. I think the worst con experience I can have, and I try never to speak ill of other cons, just because with running FA United, I've had a room for that Actually, no, I can't go into that.
How about be very vague? Don't use any names. Don't you mention any hotels. Just be like, I had this bad experience and it happened. Unless people are going to sleuth that out somehow.
Yeah, the worst I had was I was downwind from a baby fur room.
Oh no. Oh crap.
Yeah, and it smelled sort of like a sewer line had burst. And yeah, there's just a certain point where you're trying to breathe and you're like, I can taste the air.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, and I think that was the worst experience. Like, I don't really care what people do in their room so long as it doesn't affect me.
I really hope my
The
puppet
moment,
has a wincing face because like that's what I'm doing right now. It might just look like
but,
mild concern, but it's my face is kind of souring up like a lemon at the moment.
yeah, the moment you can feel the air, that changes everything.
My kind of stance is like, if you're into that kind of stuff, good on you, but like don't make it something that like ruins a convention. Other people don't need to be participating several rooms down in what you're into, like at least have the common decency not to leave any residue or marks or like anything in the hotel you're staying at. Don't be assholes,
Yeah, and I would pretty much say if you're hosting a room like that, you probably should be leaving the person who cleans it like $1,000 tip, just because. I mean, just think of the person who has to take that room after you.
I don't want to be judgmental of people's fetishes, but if it's literally impacting everyone around you, maybe it's not the best idea to do it publicly. That's what I'm saying. Like, leave that into the isolation of people that like it, because a lot of people don't like it.
Because I've been in rooms where people have smoked before, and it's like it's supposed to be a non-smoking room, but you go in there and you say it has that nicotine. It just kind of lingers. So I can't imagine going into a room like that after.
Those
I
poor
mean,
cleaning ladies. I
yeah,
feel terrible for them in general because that just conventions as a whole are a bad time. Like, obviously they make a lot of money, but for the janitors and stuff, it's like, oh man, here we go again.
part of running conventions is you get to talk to a lot of hotel staff, and like you can have like the business meetings where lawyers come in, medical farm reps, and just people in general just can be bad. So I mean, as I said, I don't really care what people do in their rooms, but just clean up. Try to make it easy for the people who have to go in after you. Be a responsible adult.
Yeah, and especially if it comes to the point where the hotel doesn't want to host you anymore, it leaves a really bad stigma on the community too when certain people ruin things for everyone.
Well, I will say this, and I speak from personal experience. If you trash the room, that's not on the con. When you put your credit card down, when you put your information for her room, they know who's in there, and whoever has the room under their name is going to get that bill. So if I can give one horror story from FA United, we had a call one day saying, hey, someone tried to drill a stripper pole into one of the hotel rooms.
What? You're there
Yeah.
for like 2 or 3 nights? What the fuck?
Yeah, so like I guess he had this collapsible dance pole and he brought it with him and he tried to screw it into the hotel, brought a power drill and everything. And luckily they caught him halfway and they told him, dude, you can't do this. You need to leave the room. And it was one of the rooms that one of our staffers had. And so I get a message saying, hey, Dragnair, someone tried to, set up a stripper pole. And I'm just sitting here like, a stripper? Like, who would do that? Who even carries a stripper pole with them?
Apparently they exist. Yeah, like you always got to have it in the back of your mind. Like what's going to be at this con? What do I have to prepare for? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm having a room party, and I probably got like 12 people in the room, and we're watching TV. Just it's after con, and we have the door open, so anyone who wants to come join us can join us. And 2 minutes after I get this text, someone walks in the room and goes, "Hey, you guys want to have fun?" And he has this bag with him, and I'm like, "No, there's just no way." And yep, he wanted to come into my room, set up his stripper pole. But he ended up paying like I want to say like $3,000 because the hotel basically caught him. They knew who he was and said, "Yeah, so we're not going to charge the convention. We're charging you."
How many years has FAU been running now?
Uh, since 2007, we did
Oh.
skip 1 year, but so it's not been consistent.
So you've been a part of FAU for about the same amount of time that you've been a part of the website.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably about 2 years extra.
What would you say is more difficult to handle, the website or the convention?
The website,
Yeah.
definitely. The convention, it has challenges, but the website or convention is 3 days of the year, plus before and some after planning. But the website is 24/7.
That's understandable. What would you say is like the peak highlights of the entire time you've been a furry? Like the highlights of your career as a furry? The things that you think of when you think of I like being a furry? Like the best things that have happened to you?
It happened to me personally, or just things that I've seen?
Or just in general, like just things that make you happy to be a furry. Positive stories, since we just talked about a bunch of shit, literal shit.
For me, it's definitely the art. That's what attracted me to the fandom. That's what attracted me to the people here. And just being able to see artists who started out drawing stick figures go into like these amazing, amazing just creators. Weird gap. Yeah, just watching somebody bloom into a starting person into, oh my god,
And
can't think
it
of my
opens
words.
it opens the door to a lot of other creation too. Like there's musicians that have taken off really big. There's YouTubers now. There's all sorts of things. There's so many fantastic fursuit makers now.
Well, yeah, especially when I first joined, like the first suits weren't bad, but they had more in costume, or more in costume.
They were more like based on what came before. They were more mascotty, you'd say.
No, they're more. Yeah, sorry, you might need to edit that out.
That's fine.
I
Adds to the grid of the episode. It's texture, you know what I'm saying? It's fine.
no, no, no. Yeah, the designs are based on sort of the lower end mascot style, where you had these really large heads, and the bodies weren't terrible, but they were never bad. But
They
if
weren't
you look
really
at
like
what,
form fitting. They're mostly just like pajamas that were draped over. It's kind of boxy, you'd say, or
yeah, but if you look at the way the heads are now, just there's so much detail, there's so much life.
so much
Uh,
expression. The follow me eyes stuff, like all the different eyelids people can attach, the lights.
yeah,
People are getting so creative. Like one of our friends, Gage, who was head of the FE parade last year, a couple of years before that, his plans for his next fursuit was to be like a Wi-Fi hotspot. He'd have like a Wi-Fi setup built into the back of the fursuit, and then these LEDs would kind of span all along the fursuit. And when he walks around the con, his Wi-Fi would be free for people to connect to and play music from his fursuit. I'm like, wow, that's a really cool idea.
yeah, no, that's just the planning and the elaborate just mapping that you'd have to do. Ugh, sorry.
Have you ever dabbled in like fursuiting yourself? Like, do you have one or anything, or not
Yeah,
really?
I have a partial suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't suited in a while. It's probably something I'll pick up again this year. Just
I only just got the confidence to get into fursuiting as of the last year. Before that, I was like, oh, I feel stupid. I don't think I'd really be able to put on a persona. Like, I'm so comfortable being me, do that mental switch and be a character, you know what I mean? But you just got to start doing it and you realize, oh, it's not such a big deal. People are just doing this for fun. Like, don't overthink it. Just enjoy yourself, you know what I mean?
I think the moment you get into a suit, your personality changes. Like you can just be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. You know, there's really no rules when you're fursuiting, except just to have fun.
Yeah, and just watch where your hands go and this, vice versa. Don't
Oh
like,
yeah, well
yeah.
that can be hard to do because you can't see anything. So it's you got to be really careful.
Do you recall the first convention you've ever went to or anything, like all the way back?
Yep, that'd be Anthrocon 1999.
So which Anthrocon would that be? Like number
I'd
8?
have to look. I don't know what year Anthrocon got started. I know it was originally in Albany, but then it moved.
What do you think the attendance would have been in the year that you went?
Trying to remember. I think it was somewhere between 900 and 1100.
That's like a small town con at that size.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like the smaller cons because they have a more relaxing atmosphere. I mean, if you compare Anthrocon now versus what it was then, it's just massive.
Yeah. A lot of my friends are tapering off Anthrocon. I guess they feel like it's, I don't know, less about them and it's more corporate, I guess. I don't know.
Like, I don't have anything against Anthrocon per se. For me, it's more, I want a convention where I can go and just be with people.
Mhm.
And like larger cons, I just have a harder time because let's say I have 3 groups of friends, and you got one friend over here is like, "Dude, let's go dinner." Okay, another person over here goes, "Hey, you want to go dinner?" You're like, "Well, now I got 2 people who both want to go, and I only have so much time."
You only have
So
3 nights, yeah.
yeah, and you're like, "Okay, I really love you, but I love you too." And then you gotta kind of weigh the friend game of who do I need to spend more time with, who haven't I seen in a long time, and I kind of hate that.
Yeah, and then you also have to juggle, like, do I want to have any time to meet new people? Because I am traveling and, like, there's people that I'm not going to meet otherwise that are at this con that would love to meet me. Do I associate time with that? Or do I just, like, hang around with my clique?
You gotta find ways to balance both. And I think at a smaller con, sort of like under 2,000, it's not too hard to do. I mean, you're still gonna have the issues, just overload, especially if you know a lot of people. Being able to just mingle is like I just enjoy going to a con, kind of sitting down with a bunch of friends. People I've met forever and meeting new people as well.
It's a good way to get away from the internet aspect of it because a lot of the furry community is online. So you can finally kind of break that seam and, like, be more interpersonal and stuff.
Yeah, and just meet the person for who they are, not how their character is. And that's something I've always loved. Because a lot of times, like the people you meet behind the scenes are just they'll kind of surprise you.
Yeah, they
Like
might
one
they
thing
might
I
have a
always
character that's, like, extremely confident. They're amazing in every way. You meet them, and they're just like this very humble, shy individual that might not have the best social skills or something, and they just want friends. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that's what I kind of like. that when people create their characters, they can kind of channel sometimes who they want to be through that character versus who they are. Like what I find funny is a lot of like characters who are like these really big fat characters are like really scrawny people in real life, and it's just sometimes the contrast is kind of amusing.
A lot of females that I know end up having huge buff male characters as their persona.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing is, whatever your character is can be sort of your ideal of what you want to be. Like, I don't think anyone's ever been like, I want a character that's everything I hate.
Well, that can be fun sometimes because then you can just let loose and just be an idiot. You know what I mean? But for the majority of people, it's about like, yeah, your ideal persona.
Yeah, so it's always kind of interesting seeing what people choose versus who they are.
What's your hobbies outside of furry stuff? Because you mentioned that you played that one werewolf game. Is there any like video games or music or shows, just elements that add to the Dragonair pie? Sprinkles.
Yeah, for me, I love gaming. I've been gaming ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's pen and paper, or like old school role playing, or video games. So like for me, I'm completely and horribly addicted to Dark Souls and Elder Scrolls.
That's like the majority of the gaming community. Yeah, I fucking love
No,
that shit.
it's true. I still can't legitimately say whether I love or hate Dark Souls. It's the kind of game that it pisses me off to a degree no other game has ever pissed me off, but I always go back.
I feel like as I become more seasoned as a gamer, I feel like I'm getting more and more masochistic. I always have to pick the games that like really whip me because then it keeps you engaged. I feel like as games get easier, I just kind of fall asleep.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like trying to think of the right way to put it. It's like people who like spicy food. There's a certain point where you're like, this food is just way too hot. Why am I doing this? And no, that's actually the stupidest thing I've ever said.
Yeah, and about 12 hours later, when you finish the game, you just have to take a massive shit. You know, it's the exact same thing.
Oh no, that's mental image. I think it's just the challenge of it. Like if you actually consider,
Make sure you can stomach it, is what you're trying to say.
no, I think it's like a level of progress. Like you got to kind of view it as a puzzle game. Like every time you try to approach something, you need to try something new to defeat a boss, try to get further.
What other games do you like besides Dark Souls and stuff?
And I've been playing games since 2600 was the big thing, or ColecoVision. No one remembers, but
Do you
it's just
feel with
weird.
the advent of more furry characters coming out in games that the furry community is just going to explode in the next 10 to 20 years? Especially with stuff like Zootopia and all that being mainstream now?
Well, I was joking with somebody that if you look at Hot Topic, like Hot Topic carries like all sorts of, I don't want to say furry themed, but things that would be borderline furry.
It's pretty furry.
Oh, yeah, like they got all these hats that have like animal ears, wolf hats, fox hats, and stuff like that. And like 20 years ago, you go to Hot Topic and it was just Goth Central. You want to buy a
Edgy
leather
shit,
cuffs
yeah,
that have,
black, red.
That's like the only place you could go to get like neon blue hair dye. And now it's like video games and furry shit.
If you had an infinite budget, like you had all the money in the world, you could hire anyone, what kind of movie would you make? What would your ideal movie be?
Oh my god, that's a hard question. So like, it would be a furry movie. I mean, it would definitely
Zootopia 2.
no, like I would definitely have probably anther-themed characters, but I like the diversity. Sort of like if you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, where they have this motley crew of different characters and species. I would kind of want something sort of like a Guardians of the Galaxy meets Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if I were gonna make a movie, I'd definitely have it human focused with like anthro and mythical characters in there. Probably like 50-50 ratio, just for variety's sake. I mean, and it would have to have Chris Pratt just because.
Chris Pratt is like a furry, so he's a platypus or something.
A platypus.
Chris Pratt.
Zootopia also brought racism. I think that's a good way to approach it, though, where you can talk about taboo subjects without everyone getting upset.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is like, okay, how can we make a movie about racism without making people get all pissed off? Oh, well, we'll take away any reference to real world racism and make it about something else that anyone can relate to.
Like a lot of people just now, you can't have a good conversation because it's too many things are too sensitive now. People take things too far.
People just spend too much time on the internet. That's what the problem is. They're
Yeah,
just
they don't-
so idle that anything is offensive because otherwise life is boring.
Yeah, and I admit I'm one of those people too. Shouldn't be, but sometimes it's a lot easier just to check Reddit or check Twitter and see what's going on.
Like I do get days where I'm bored and I've got nothing going on. I'll see some stupid story about what this person did and all that, get all excited. But on the average days, like I'd rather be productive than just wasting my time getting angry about things that ultimately are never going to affect me in my lifetime.
Well, that's just the thing. Like, I used to be one of those people, and I just kind of realized that over time, just being angry was eating away at me, and it wasn't really doing anything productive.
It just ends up making you toxic or just really unhappy if you
Yeah.
just every day is anger or just misery based.
And it's good to be angry over some things, but you can't be angry over everything. Just being passionate about things is definitely good.
This podcast actually ended up being very similar themes to the last one. We actually started off with Twitter and then delved into games and then into movies and then back to furries. This one kind of was the other way around. It's funny.
Seriously, what's up with the name?
What, Cuck Shack? That's how the other episode started. You'll just have to watch that to find out. That's the hook. You have to go watch the other shit now.
You didn't say anything about there being homework.
No, you're a part of the mythos of Cuck Shack.
Oh, God.
So I feel like that's a pretty good meaty podcast there. I'm glad that we didn't just kind of fumble after the first couple of minutes. Any kind of closing statement you'd like to say to your fans, your giant following of Dragoneer supporters, some motivational shit about furries or just nothing at all? Anything you want to say to close it off?
Brush your teeth.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, everyone, thank you for watching Cuck Shack episode 6. This was Dragoneer. It was a really good episode. You can follow him on Twitter and all the shit. I'll link something in the description. All right, bye, everyone. You want to say bye? Bye to you, everyone.
Bye.
Wow, that was pretty much exactly as shit and pathetic as I was expecting. Anyway, if you like this video for any godforsaken reason, try this one on Patreon banning lusty Argonian comics from their platform. Did you hear they already rolled back their stance on consent? Turns out all it took was a little backlash from artists to get them to cave. Bunch of fucking spineless idiots. Anyway, come and enjoy the videos.